afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Shaggy and Friends Foundation and Health Minister reach settlement on donations. Public sector workers still uneasy over new compensation system. And later in sports, West Indies women looking to avoid 5-0 series sweep by England. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. A settlement has been reached between the Shaggy and Friends Foundation and the Ministry of Health. Chairman of the Bustamante Hospital for Children, Kenny Benjamin, made the disclosure during a tour of the facility recently. In 2018, the Shaggy Make a Difference Foundation raised 100 million Jamaican dollars at the Shaggy and Friends concert, with plans to expand the intensive care unit at the Bustamante Hospital for Children. But there was a delay in handing over the funds to the hospital, which sparked outrage in several quarters. Now, chairman at the Bustamante Hospital for Children, Kenny Benjamin, says the issue has been resolved.
We've had a settlement with Shaggy and Friends, and the first thing we are attacking is 7 ICU units. 5 of them are going to be new and 2 of them are going to be refurbished, which also means that we're going to have to do some building. And I don't know if Shaggy's budget of $100 million is going to cover all that.
Mr. Benjamin also said staff shortage continues to be an issue at the hospital, but plans are in place to fill those gaps. He was speaking during a recent tour of the facility where children were treated with gifts ahead of the Christmas holidays. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, among other hospital officials, were present, along with Teddy, the animal therapy dog. Head of the Ear, Nose and Throat Department and one of the medical doctors spearheading the animal therapy program, Dr. Marsha James, says the initiative is working so far.
Staff and patients have benefited from it, and we are going to launch in January, and we're doing a pilot for 18 months to see how best this intervention can assist both our patients and our staff. We're also going to do a study, so this will give us scientific evidence for us here in Jamaica, and we're so appreciative of the staff here for being receptive and cooperative in this initiative, and for the minister in backing us in doing this scientific work and helping our patients, not only pharmacologically, but with also non-pharmacological interventions.
Senior Medical Officer Dr. Michelle Ann Richards-Dawson says the hospital still has a lot of work to be done. Meanwhile, she has this advice to parents and guardians as the holiday period approaches.
Still have a lot of work here to do. We still have a lot of sick children. We still have respiratory illnesses. We're asking persons still to be very careful. Wear your mask when you can, especially when you're out in a very crowded environment. And for those, remember your respiratory hygiene. If you sneeze into your elbow. If you have to use your hands, make sure afterwards you have washed your hands. And we're also ensuring that parents that keep the children safe, and yourself as well. If you're unwell, stay home. Don't go out into the crowd if you're sick.
To the adults, please manage your propensity to overindulge during this time of year. The partying, the drinking and driving, all of this, of course, if it goes bad, ends up with an accident and emergency, overcrowding. And this time of year is particularly, we're vulnerable to that.
The issue surrounding the new compensation system is also affecting nurses. President of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, Patsy Edwards-Henry, says this is making her members uneasy. Like other public sector workers, several nurses are also still without their December pay, while others have not received the benefits agreed to. President of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, Patsy Edwards-Henry, says the delays could result in some members not getting their pay until after Christmas, depending on the respective banks used by the nurses.
So when we within the traditional banking system get our salary on the 25th, sometimes our colleagues who have the non-traditional and credit unions do not get paid until the 28th. So that is something that we are worried about. So while we talk about it being late, and yes, it's coming today, it's coming tomorrow, we are worried that some of our colleagues will not be paid before next week.
The NAJ president says the delays threaten to sour relations between the union and the government.
It's really sad because persons look forward to. So it has saddened and demotivated the trust that we had in the system, how we sold it as an association, has sort of backfired and has not gone as smoothly as we hoped it would.
And Mrs. Edwards-Henry says stemming from this experience, the nurses could seek to return to the negotiating table. She notes the changes in the calculation payment of traveling benefits versus how it was explained as another sticking point for the nurses, saying they may need to revisit negotiations to clear up these discrepancies.
We have to go back to the table, we have to go back to the drawing board, and we have to have the discussion. And the whole issue of trust have to come back in once we restart the negotiation.
Meanwhile, Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says the outstanding information from the Southern Regional Health Authority has been submitted. Dr. Clark was speaking on TVJ's Current Affairs program All Angles last evening. He said the outstanding payment should be made by Thursday.
It's Southern Regional Health Authority, when I spoke to you earlier today,
right.
Where they had not submitted certain critical information that is required for the verification of their calculations. And as I mentioned and that's only one of the 52 entities in central government.
And that still remains the same?
No, since 5 o'clock and now, I've been updated that they have submitted the file that has the conversion information, and that is being verified and validated. Hopefully that verification will go well, in which case the Transformation Implementation Unit will be in a position to instruct the Accountant General to go ahead.
And that would then mean all the...
And that would mean all.
Everybody.
Amidst the rise in crime in Manchester, there's a call for residents to be extra vigilant during the Christmas period. The police are also issuing a warning to criminals who are seeking to enter the parish.
People with criminal intentions, they will see Manchester as easy pickings, or as somewhere where they can bring their criminal activities. Now, I want to advise you, whenever persons or strange persons are seen in the communities, please advise the police.
A warning also from Member of Parliament for Manchester North Eastern, Ode Shaw.
And one of the things that is happening in Manchester is because things get hot in places like Clarendon, some of the illegal people are run away from Clarendon and come to Manchester. And I want to send a message to them tonight. We don't want to do in Manchester, and we don't want to do in Northeast Manchester.
They were speaking at a Christmas tree lighting ceremony in Christiana, Manchester on Wednesday. The Christmas tree was the first to be erected in a public space in Christiana. Vendors in Falmouth, Trelawney are hoping sales will pick up as it draws closer to Christmas. They say despite the reopening of the economy due to the COVID-19 pandemic, customers are being extremely careful on how they spend their money. We spoke with a few vendors at the Bend-Down Market in Falmouth on Wednesday.
Last year, I ain't in true, man. This year, I tell you about the people them come like splinter them, broke up. I fight them, I fight for get some, you know? Fight for Christmas.
Kind of slow in the morning, I know, but gradually a little more go pick up. Because you know at Christmas, everybody have wait like on remittance and stuff like that.
Now go on in the market. The market tough. We have to fight if we make it. Right now, me I said that tax $50. Cheaper than the China man. And the people them I run past. Me don't know what I go on. You'd have to tell me. It look bad. It come like we have to hope and pray for January.
In the meantime, the police and the parish are stressing that extra vigilance must be taken by property owners over the festive season. Superintendent Milton Winston says during this time of the year, there is normally an increase in house break-ins.
Break-ins, the loss in a person. So break-in, simple larceny, breaking into motor vehicles, removing valuables from them. Simple larceny, the person stealing things from persons, pockets, etc. So at this point, we continue to urge our clients coming into the space to ensure that you do not leave valuables in your vehicle, particularly where they can be seen. Try not to wear jewelry, gold, etc. on your person when you're walking in crowds. Avoid using cash.
3 people were shot, 2 fatally, during an attack in Commodore District in Linstead, St. Catherine this morning. A taxi operator known only as Fur and an unidentified woman were shot and killed during a drive-by shooting. Another taxi operator who was shot during the attack has been hospitalized. The incident happened about 1:30. It is not clear what led to the shooting, as the police are still probing the incident. The Jamaica Council for Persons Living with Disabilities is encouraging people with disabilities to take advantage of job opportunities. This following the revelation that not many people from the community have been applying for jobs, especially in banks. Since the Disabilities Act took effect on February 14 this year, some business entities have implemented changes to better accommodate people living with disabilities. The changes includes more job opportunities in the local market. It's why the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, JCPD, has been hosting a series of engagements with stakeholders to get players to better respond to the needs of people with disabilities. Dr. Christine Hendricks is head of the JCPD.
So that we can help to help our young people with disabilities know how to write resumes, know how to prepare for an interview and ace an interview when they go into the space. So Scotia has committed to be doing this for our young people, and we look forward to that process.
Shockingly, prior to the changes, job take-up was significantly low among people living with disabilities, especially in the banking sector.
That persons with disabilities may be out of fear, or whatever the situation is, or they may not they are not seeing the advertisements, and so they are not applying as they would need to. So while it is that the society is seeking to include persons with disabilities also have a responsibility to prepare themselves to step into the positions that are being made available.
Dr. Hendricks is encouraging persons with disabilities to take advantage of job opportunities.
Persons who are able to ensure that you go to school, do well, pass your subjects. Those of you who are moving out of university and you have your degrees, don't be afraid, to apply for the possible positions that are out there, thinking that because you have a disability, then you might not be considered. Throw your hat in the ring, as persons would say, and give yourself a fair opportunity.
And as for employers who may be hesitant in recruiting people living with disabilities,
I wouldn't say give it a try, but speak to other employers who are employing. Let them share their experience so that you can see that it is not, you will not lose out. As a matter of fact, studies have shown that when you employ persons with disabilities and have them in the space, it becomes a better environment for all.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News. A report on the working conditions of Jamaican farm workers in Canada has been completed and is now being analyzed. It follows the recent outcry of workers on the program about deplorable and inhumane working conditions. The Labour Ministry had set up a special fact-finding team to look into the workers' complaints. President of the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions, Helene Davis-White, who also heads the fact-finding team, says over 100 farms in Canada were visited and inspected.
Actually tried to ensure that, we selected a sample that allowed us to be able to get the views of. We use the statistical means to be able to make sure that we could draw valid findings from it.
Dr. White says the survey conducted includes health and safety concerns, among others, that will be taken into consideration.
Our report will go into all that we have found in terms of, what actually exists, so that workers can access in terms of mistreatment and in terms of recommendations. Where we find that we need to make a recommendation in that sphere, we will.
And it's now time for the Business Minute.
Apex Radiology is looking to buy new biomedical equipment as well as to acquire a property in Kingston to relocate its largest operation. To fund its ambition, it has turned to the stock market. Apex Radiology is selling 20% of its equity in order to raise close to $500 million in an initial public offering priced at $2 per share. The Apex offer, being brokered by JMMB Securities Limited, runs from December 28 to January 11, 2023. In business overseas, former U.S. President Donald Trump reported steep business losses in his final year in the White House, allowing the billionaire to avoid paying income tax. He also did not face tax audits during his first 2 years in office, despite rules requiring the review of tax filings by sitting presidents. It's one of the revelations from the newly released financial records of Mr. Trump. The documents were viewed after Democrats voted to release the former president's records on Tuesday after a 4-year legal battle. That's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
Now for a look at the top regional and international stories.
In the region, the former chief executive officer of the collapsed cryptocurrency exchange FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, has been extradited from the Bahamas to the United States to face fraud charges. The 30-year-old former billionaire, who is wanted in the Southern District of New York, was detained in the island's capital, Nassau, in December. According to U.S. authorities, he was extradited on suspicion of committing one of the biggest financial frauds in U.S. history. Bankman-Fried, who denied the allegations, may appear in court on Thursday. On the international scene, according to the National Weather Service, a bomb cyclone will hit the United States today into tomorrow. It is a brutal storm that rapidly intensifies in 24 hours, and more than 87 million Americans are now under wind chill alerts. The Weather Service says temperatures could be life-threatening in parts of the country on Thursday. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
We take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report with Renarda Brown.